What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here with some Super Bowl 56 DFS picks and lineup advice and strategy for small field, high risk contests on FanDuel, on DraftKings, very specific contest type. We're here to walk through how to build lineups for the Bengals Rams Super Bowl. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co founder here at Occupy Fantasy. Today, you're joined by a special guest. Normally, you see him on our League of Legends streams. He is our League of Legends writer at OccupyFantasy.com. You know him in our Discord as St. Kenneth. But Ken's actually been crushing small field contests in all sports over the past year or two. So I had to bring him on and talk through some strategy here. Ken, what's up, bud?
I'm good, not doing too bad. We had a week off and then the Pro Bowl, but the Super Bowl is here, and this is the week to get everything ready and see how we can win on Sunday.
And I got to say, I appreciate you. You're on the West Coast, so you're waking up about 6 hours early for this video. So I super appreciate you.
Oh yeah, I had to close the blinds so no sun comes in, but it's bright and early. But we're ready to go. Yeah.
Sounds good. So in this video, we're going to talk about what small field high risk contests are, why they've been such a key focus for us at Occupy Fantasy over the last year or so, specific strategies for NFL Showdown contests in this contest type, and then we'll talk about what some examples are in the lobby contests you should target, and then we'll talk about this game specifically on how to build lineups for both DraftKings and FanDuel to get you to the top of those small field contests. Before we get started, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, get notified when we go live. Tons of videos lined up for this week for the Super Bowl, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Give us a thumbs up if you appreciate the content. Any questions, comment on the video below, or if you're like me, you're like Ken, we're in Discord all the time. Hop in our Discord server. We'll happily answer any questions you have throughout the week. So, Ken, let's jump into it. In a small field high risk contest, for those who don't know, we lay out the definition in our daily plugs. But really what it comes down to are these GPPs that are in the range of 50 to maybe 500 players. And you can find them throughout the lobby. But there's a couple big advantages to these contests. Ken, why have you been targeting them so much lately, and why do you think they're so good for people's bankrolls?
I think for most people watching, they don't have a super large bankroll where they can 150 max every contest. So they just have a standard size bankroll and they want to grow it. So I think small field contests is a great way to attack them, because if you look at it percentage wise, if you finish top 1% in a 150 max, you maybe get 2-3 times back your money. But if you finish top 1% in, let's say, like a 100-player contest, then you finish first, which sometimes could mean, even up to 25 times your money. So if you really want to build your bankroll, targeting these small field contests is a great way to start.
Absolutely. And even if you have a larger bankroll, we see a lot of people make mistakes in these contest types, and they're a great way to continue to grow your bankroll at a high level and also weather the storm in between some of those 150 max losses and wins. I mean, Ken, you play these types of contests in all sports, and you actually play them in some pretty high dollar ones against top pros, and you even see them making mistakes. What are some of the mistakes you see people make in these contest sizes for all different sports?
Sure, for in the higher dollar ones, it's weird because a lot of what you would call kind of sharper players, they tend to hone in on the value guys or even the cheaper guys. So you'll see any value that appears on a slate, they're actually way higher owned than they would be in like a 150 max contest. So an easy way is just to kind of play someone else that is in the similar price range, who's not a value play, but the ownership leverage that you get from pivoting off the value play is a big one. And then something else is that a lot of pros, they make their cash lineup, so they make their low risk lineup, and then since money isn't a big issue to them, so they'll enter these contests into these small field, they'll enter the same lineup, so it's not optimized for a small field GPP lineup.
Right, exactly. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, we have some people who put too much risk into these types of contests. They play like a regular GPP and they take on too much risk that isn't even necessary. And to your point about the value plays being super high owned, the one example that just comes to my mind immediately, there was the Saints. It was the Ian Book game earlier this year, Monday Night Football. Nick Vannett, who is not a great fantasy player by any means, would we see him in that one contest, the 777, the 555? He got up to what, like 70% ownership in that contest and put up a goose egg.
Yeah, that was crazy. Especially there was a bunch of value around him too. I think
Yeah.
there were like little Jordan Humphrey actually made the optimal, and he was only $800, so he was only 1,800 on that slate too. So but he was almost 70% in the large dollar contest. So that was pretty crazy.
So that's the thing. It's the best type of contest to grow your bankroll from just a pure math perspective, looking at the payouts. And people don't play it properly. What more could you ask for? So you might ask, what do these contests look like? What type of contests are we looking for? So I'm bringing up the DraftKings lobby here. And generally, the way I like to do it, and Ken, I'll kick it to you here in a second on what you like to look for. For me, I'll enter my entry fee range over on the left-hand side. For most casual players, that may be 25 cents to $10. And then you're looking at all contest types on DraftKings, and you just sort by entries until you get down to less than 1,000 entries. And there are going to be some double ups and satellites and other types of contests mixed in here, but you're looking for the GPPs that either a single entry, you can enter up to 3, 5, 6 lineups, and you can make a bunch of lineups and enter them across these. Instead of entering those 6 or 8 lineups into a 20 max or a 150 max, you can enter them into a variety of these small field contests. So that's one way I like to do it. And of course, if we go over to FanDuel, the best way you can do it is in just the 100 player league section. These act as the small field contests over here. They're fantastic payout structures. And again, people don't play them properly. Or you can go to the tournaments tab and again, do the same thing. Sort by entry, filter by entry fee, sort by number of entries, and then find the sweet spot. Ken, is there anything that I'm missing here that you look for in the lobby when you're trying to find a small field high risk contest?
Sure, I definitely agree with you on FanDuel. I think the 3 to 100 players are really the best contest types in all of DFS. So these are definitely ones you should be targeting. It's a bit tougher on DraftKings, but I think the fewer people you have to beat, the easier it'll be. So I actually think the sweet spot on DraftKings is somewhere from 50 to maybe even 200 people. So the less people you have to beat, and then satellites are a big part of it. So that's something I'm looking for on DraftKings.
Exactly. And we in our ultimate guide, we mentioned that contests, they're literally called contests on DraftKings, are the equivalent of the 100 player leagues on FanDuel. They aren't very widespread. And if you type in contests from 25 cents to $50 on DraftKings for the Super Bowl, there are a couple 47 player and 39 player ones. But Ken, even these sizes, right? That's not too small to employ some of the strategy we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah, these are great contests as well. Even the like $27 or $50, like these higher ones with 11 or 21 entrants. A lot of sharp players plays them. So like I said earlier about jamming in the value, so it's an easy way to pivot and beat up on some of these guys as well. So these are great contests.
Absolutely. When you know what your opponents are going to do, it makes things a hell of a lot easier. So I'm on DraftKings now. I just pulled up the $50 chop block. It is a $340 or 340 entry contest. We'll talk about it. So Ken, let's talk about specific strategies, right? For DraftKings NFL Showdown, really the plan here is you want to play most of the best plays. You want to get different in 2 spots, generally at the captain spot, and then you want to play a low-owned player in your flex spot. And you don't want to make super weird lineups here. You only have to beat 300 players. You want to maximize correlation, play the game script that is most expected from the most part, and build lineups that make sense, but just getting different in 2 spots. And that doesn't sound very hard, right, Ken? You can do that easily. And then on FanDuel, what are you looking at over there to do?
On FanDuel, it's similar to DraftKings where you really want to play the good plays, but you want to get different in at least 1 and maybe even 2 spots. And that'll mainly depend on how your lineup construction, what kind of salary you have left. So in 1 spot, you're probably looking at a lower, cheaper guy that not many people are pivoting to. And then maybe if you have 2 differentiators, then it's 2 mid-range spots that you're looking at on FanDuel.
Yep, exactly. So let's talk about this specific game, Rams and Bengals, and what we're looking to do in these small field contests. And again, you can take this information. A lot of it will be in the daily plug later this week, but you can take this information, build lineups, and have a great success on Sunday's games. So let's start with DraftKings, Ken. The most popular captain obviously is going to be Cooper Kupp, but I think in some of these smaller contests, especially the higher dollar, sharper ones, we might see some of these mid-range guys maybe not approach 20%, but definitely above 10%. Which guys do you think beyond Cooper Kupp is the most targeted on DraftKings?
I think the easiest answer is probably T. Higgins. T. Higgins is, he's shown a lot of volume. They've got a 1A, 1B kind of thing going on with Jamar Chase. And he's only 7,600 in flex, only 11,400. So putting in T. Higgins at captain, which I'm sure a lot of small field players will do, helps you jam in more studs, which is what people are looking for. So Cooper Kupp, definitely popular. I think T. Higgins is going to be a number 2 there.
For sure. And really what you're trying to do here, right? You're trying to find guys who ideally they can be the highest scorer on the slate or they can provide a ton of value for their salary. Higgins does both there. He could actually be the high scorer and he can provide value. And really that's what you're looking for here. But let's say you're looking to get different here. Another great example would be some of these other receivers, like Jamar Chase, I think would be a perfect small field, high risk captain. What do you think about the quarterbacks or the running backs for small field?
I love the quarterbacks. I think Stafford and Burrow, they're good small field plays, and then the thing about both teams, if they can spread it around. So we've seen Odell Beckham had an increase in volume. So if Stafford throws the cup and Odell, then Stafford's probably doing well. And Burrow obviously has his three receivers. So I would definitely consider the quarterbacks, and they're also easy pivot off cup.
Right, exactly, for sure. And really, what you're looking for in a small field contest, there's two zones I would say that you're looking for differentiation. One zone is below the kickers and defenses. And if we look on this particular slate, we have McPherson and Gay at 4K and 3,800 respectively. The Rams and Bengals at 3,400 and $3,200 respectively. And then we get the super value plays. Generally, most showdown slates throughout the year will have a very obvious value down here, and that is the Nick Vannett scenario. Well, they'll get 70% ownership in this type of contest, and you can find a pivot either down there or change up your line of construction to not include a cheap play. However, in this first zone, really the only guy that kind of stands out is Samaje Perine, just because he does play some and no one else below them does. But I don't think he'll get super popular in these contests or any contest type. Do you?
I don't think he'll be too popular as well, but that's probably for good reason because I don't think he's that great of a play. So anyone below the Bengals at 3,200, it's a tough range. I don't think we'll see many guys below that.
So in small field contest this week, no need to play anyone below this range for this contest size. Now, the other zone is above the kickers and defenses, but below the backup quarterbacks, who are generally priced at 6K. So that's the range of 4K to 58, 5,900. So for this particular slate, we have Tyler Boyd, Van Jefferson, Sonny Michel, whichever Rams tight end plays, Higbee or Blanton, and whichever Cincinnati tight end plays, Uzama or Sample. Who do you think the field picks out of this group to be the most popular, and which ones do you like as your low-owned differentiators here, Ken? Because this is generally the zone where you get different in a small field contest.
Yeah, this is the sweet zone. It's funny that both tight ends for both teams are true questionables and injured, but I think most of the field they'll gravitate. The easy answer is Tyler Boyd. He, wide receiver 3, but he still gets a lot of volume, and the Bengals will pass to him, so he'll be popular. And then looking at some other low-owned guys, it's Van Jefferson and Sonny Michel, and then the tight ends. I like Van Jefferson. I mean, we've seen him. He runs a lot of routes, and he can definitely catch balls. I don't think he'll be too popular. And Sonny Michel I like a lot too. He got more snaps than Akers last week, and in a game script where the Rams are trailing, I think we'll see a lot of Sonny Michel in pass protection and just as a kind of receiving back as well.
For sure. And so now you think about it, again, you don't have to get crazy. You want to maximize correlation and tell a proper story. So if you play Van Jefferson, that means you're probably not playing Odell unless you're putting Stafford as your captain. And if you're playing Sonny Michel, you're probably not playing Cam Akers, right, Ken?
Yeah, I wouldn't play Cam Akers and Sonny Michel in the same lineup, at least not in small field. It's something you can do in large field, but I don't think it's necessary for small field contests.
Exactly. So, and now what about the kickers and defenses? Because these are always great differentiators where they'll be the most popular ones will hover around that 20% mark, and generally that's the threshold we're looking for a different differentiator. And sometimes the kickers will approach that and exceed that. Where do you think the field? Because I know the field's going to love McPherson just because of what he's done this postseason. But what do you think about Gay, McPherson, and the defenses in small field this week?
I agree with you on McPherson and the quotes he said, and the field will love that. And we've got Gay here as well. I think the kickers are a good play, but I also think they'll exceed 20%. But just as a salary kind of saver, they're a good play. And I love the D special teams this week. It's a high total game, so I don't think people will gravitate towards the defenses. So I like the Rams. The Rams will probably end up a bit more popular because of the O-line issues and everything. So the Bengals defensive special teams is a definitely going to go low owned and someone to consider in small field to this week.
Absolutely, for sure. And again, if you're making lineups here, you want to make sure they make sense. But there are scenarios in small field, in Showdown, even not in large field as well, where when there are no values and no values get there, sometimes we see a little bit of discombobulated lineups get there. So a kicker versus opposing defense, a quarterback not paired with his receiver at captain. So you don't have to get very strict if you don't have a value play, but just try to make your lineup make as much sense as possible. Now, if we move over to FanDuel, Ken, to me, it looks like the three obvious MVP choices are Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow. If you're playing three lineups, you could easily play one of each. But that's my initial thought. You've had more success on FanDuel than I have. So what are your initial thoughts on FanDuel for small field at the MVP position?
That's something I definitely consider as well. Kupp, Stafford, Burrow are kind of the main three guys, and they'll get there. They have volume. It's hard to see Mixon, Chase, or even Odell or Higgins kind of outscore these three guys with how the scoring system on FanDuel works. It's half PPR, and there aren't wide receiver bonuses. But I think if you have, like you said, three lineups, it's kind of good to have one of each at MVP there.
For sure. So if we play each of these guys, what does the rest of the lineup look like? Are you pairing Stafford with Kupp if you play him at MVP? Are you guaranteeing to get yourself two receivers with Stafford or Burrow, depending on who you have as your MVP?
It's going to be really difficult to leave out Cooper Kupp this week, just in really any lineup. So if I have Kupp as MVP, you really don't have to play Stafford because Kupp can get there on volume alone. But it's good correlation. If you find other ways to get different, then you can definitely throw Stafford in. If Stafford's MVP, I would put Cooper Kupp in there just because it's Cooper Kupp. And if Burrow is at MVP, you probably want at least two pass catchers in there. So maybe so Chase, Higgins, or Boyd. You could get away with one if you think someone will have concentrated volume. So Chase, or probably Higgins.
That makes sense. So now if we drop down, I mean, the pricing is pretty interesting this week, right? We have Cam Akers at 10K. So we drop down there. The kickers are at 9K or higher. And then we have a decent amount of players that are going to see time on the field. Tyler Boyd, both tight ends, Sonny Michel, Van Jefferson in that 7 to 9K range. I imagine we'll get one, maybe even two guys from here in our small field lineups, right?
Yeah, with how pricing works, and like you should play Cooper Kupp. He's a good play. So, but if you play him, you're probably gonna have to play one of these guys in the 7 to 9K range. So I mean, I'm looking at Van Jefferson's a good one. If I have Stafford, Sony Michel I mentioned earlier, I like him on FanDuel as well. And running backs get a boost on FanDuel with how scoring works. And then Blanton, I can't imagine will be too popular. I think Boyd will be decently owned, but he won't be too popular as well because there's Higgins and Chase that are above him. So definitely you're going to want at least one of these guys to help you in your lineups, and they're good low-owned differentiators as well.
Exactly. And just one final question for you on FanDuel, because the quarterbacks are pricey, 15K or more for both of them. Is there a scenario where you fit both quarterbacks in your small field lineup, or are you pretty much only playing a max of one quarterback per lineup?
With how it shapes out, you can only fit in two of Stafford, Burrow, and Kupp. And if you pick Stafford and Burrow, you have to leave out Cooper Kupp. So it's hard to say, but I've been playing with one quarterback kind of all year, and I've had success with it. So I don't think I'll be playing Stafford and Burrow in the same lineup.
That makes a ton of sense. Actually makes a ton of sense. All right, before we get out of here, for those of you who are making multiple lineups and you're taking our advice and entering them and sprinkling them through a variety of small field contests, Ken, what's the most exposure you'd have to any one player? Whether it's 100%, you'd have one guy in all of your lineups. And who are the guys that you're looking at that you got to get into a majority of those small field lineups on either site?
Sure, on both DraftKings and FanDuel, the strategy I employ, I'm making just a handful of lineups. I get at least one low owned piece in kind of every lineup, so I'm not having Van Jefferson in all three lineups. So I'm having a piece of Van Jefferson here, and then maybe some of Sony Michel in another one, and maybe blend in another one, and then forming the chalk pieces around them. So I'll definitely have a lot of Cup. I'll have probably a good amount of Stafford, and Higgins is a great play as well on DraftKings and FanDuel. So I'm all about having one low owned piece in kind of every different lineup, and then just having the same building blocks around them.
So that's a key takeaway here because we need differentiation in our lineups, but from a volatility perspective and a portfolio of lineups perspective, you're not generally playing that same low owned piece across all your lineups. You just want, maybe you have 6 lineups, you put one guy in 2 of them, another guy in 2 of them, and another guy in the last 2. And that way it spreads your risk out and you can play actual good plays for once all around them, and it makes things a lot easier. So Ken, any final advice for the Super Bowl or small field contests in general, or any predictions for the game?
The easy one, I guess, enjoy the game. But if you're not too busy, I mean, like grinding these second half contests are pretty sick. So I know last year I was doing the head to heads. It draws a lot of casuals, so they'll be in the head to head lobbies. So look for those guys with no badges, no experience badges in the head to head second half lobbies, and then build your lineup around them. So it's probably easy way to make some money on Super Bowl day.
Sharp advice, as always, from Ken. You can find his work at OccupyFantasy.com. He writes the League of Legends Daily Plug, which Ken will be back soon, right? In a couple days?
Yeah, in a couple days, and then definitely after Super Bowl as well.
Absolutely. So come talk to us in Discord. Chat with Ken all the time. Get sharp advice from him. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. The link is in the description below. Follow me on Twitter at BrianJesterFF. Follow us at Occupy Fantasy. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Again, we got a couple more videos lined up for the Super Bowl. Tons of live streams. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get notified. Give us a thumbs up if you appreciate the Super Bowl content and want to see more. And again, any questions, comment on the video or come join us in Discord. For Ken, I'm Brian. Appreciate you all listening, and good luck in the Super Bowl.